Dave, you're on, man. We lost Steve.
He gone.
Steve hit the leave meeting button.
Yeah. All right, we'll wait for Steve.
Techno who?
Yeah, you win this one.
Hey, who kicked me out?
You hit the leave button, didn't you?
I did not.
Maybe Techno Mike kicked you out. He's the host now. That red square up there. All right, let's record a podcast in. Hey, this is Wicked Spursy, Mike, Steve, and Dave. Boys, good to be back with you during this festive holiday season where the fixtures run thick and fast. Steve, how you doing?
That sounded radio.
Thick and fast.
Thick and is that our pod title? Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Is that appropriate? Can we?
Depends on where we go with it. Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Dave. Doing great. You know, it's a busy time of the month at work. So the days are flying by, taking periodic breaks to go outside and shovel wet, heavy snow is keeping me young. It's making my back feel old. My son built a snowman at school because fortunately for me, daycare for him is disconnected from the rest of the school district. So sucks to those parents who had to deal with their kids all day, but I didn't. Really helps get work done when you don't have a 3-year-old running around.
You don't say. You don't say.
Yeah, imagine that.
I can only imagine. I remember it, but I can only imagine at this point. Mikey boy, how you doing, man? How's it going?
Well, Dave, I got to tell you, this past week was it was good, it was bad. I had a fucking great weekend. I got some work done at the hospital, and we had a great match, and I got to watch the match with the folks at Vermont Spurs, and it was a great time. Got some new scarves out there as merch. They look just like the one you have on your background there, which is, the standard scarf. Yeah, there it is.
Indeed. Yeah.
And there were probably 15 people there, maybe more. I don't. It was pretty close, if not. And it was a great time. I feel things are growing for them. So I had a great time. The host at McKee's pub was great, and our personalized personal, what would you call her? A server, Sarah. I have to mention her. She was just phenomenal for us.
Huge shout out.
A huge shout out. She worked really hard, got to know everybody, got to know everybody's names. It's great. Like,
nice.
Yeah.
And Mike, just for listeners, next watch session is this coming Friday for the Nottingham Forest match, right?
Yeah, anybody who's in town or is planning on coming into town this weekend, especially if you're picking up your kid from college,
that'd be me.
should come and watch the match with us. It'll be fun. The food is good, and the TVs are on and they're loud. So
they have alcohol.
I also just have to make another little thing before we get going here.
Actually, Mike, could I ask you to pause for a moment because I want to stay on the McKee's thing for just a moment? Can we do that?
Oh yeah, sure.
Question for Steve. Steve, I know that at a former place that you guys gathered that shall not be named, you were really fond of a couple of the things that they served from a food standpoint. What's your food analysis at McKee's? Do you have the Steve's favorite that you recommend?
Well, I'm 2 for 2 with going with their chicken Caesar wrap. It's been very enjoyable. Get to soak up some of that beer with the side of French fries. But yeah, it's a nice, easy, simple, hard to mess up sort of thing. Quite enjoyable. I will say, the first week we went, the first, time Vermont Spurs hosted there, we got these, I can't remember exactly what they were. They were like this like maple chili mozzarella stick type thing.
Sriracha. Yeah.
Those were good.
Maple sriracha. Yeah.
Those were good. In a way that I wasn't really expecting them to be, right? Like you can get mozzarella sticks anywhere, you could go to the grocery store, get a bunch, throw them in the freaking microwave and you're good to go. So, it's nice when a place like tries to do something a little bit unique with it just so that it's different. Um, but yeah, I pretty much stick with my Caesar wrap, and I'm a content man.
Very
They
good. Very good.
I don't know what the beer specials are going to be, but they've been doing these $3 Narragansetts for these Sunday
Right,
matches,
right
which
up
have been
Steve's
just
alley.
That's
it's
special. Absolutely.
fantastic.
Very
Dude,
good.
dude, I'm spending $6 on 2 beers. It's fantastic.
Valid. I mean, the beer can be pretty bad, and I'm still happy I spent only $3 on it. Just that's my thought.
Went to
Mike,
a
back
concert in Boston and spent $12 on a beer, one beer.
precisely.
So
Precisely. Or the
You should
worst is when
doing
you go to a ball game or a concert and you get the ginormo cans, which we've talked about before, that are, warm by the time you get halfway through. But
oh yeah.
I digress. Mike, you had
yeah.
something else you want to talk about before we
Yeah, so
get
yeah,
into it.
before we get going, I do want to talk about our Hey Mike last week. I'm sorry to anybody who's listening
You're
to
what? You're sorry?
Story.
sorry.
I can't do this on television because I'm
Um
sorry.
so I wanted to apologize to anybody who's listening
Is
and
this a Canadian podcast now?
listen to me and my ability to speak devolve as the rest of the podcast went on, and I promise that before I drink, I will not drink like that again. Um, and
This
I
week.
and I will not. I'll make sure to look at the ABV before I go, and just so everybody knows that I will not drink again like that this week.
So it might be
There you
difficult
go.
to see. This is a
Gotcha.
9.5 that I've got going. So I'm not making that promise. I'm
Oh
just
yeah, we're gonna have a little Steve fun tonight, Mike. But hey, listen, Mike, I
This
told
is
you
a
last
liter.
week.
This is over a liter of beer,
liter of
but it's
cola.
Miller. It's Miller Lite.
Yeah, so
That's my
that
name
doesn't
right
count.
here.
Do we have liter cola?
Mike, I told you last week because we talked about it. I thought even though you felt that you um were saucy and sloppy, I disagree. You were guilty of talking about how much you appreciate your daughter and you enjoyed a tasty beer that you were in love with, and you surprised Mike or Steve and I on the rating. It was all in all, it was a good. I thought it was a good one overall. You could have been
Oh,
Yeah.
much
and
worse.
and
Let's put it
another
that way.
shout out to my daughter because my daughter this weekend caught the eye of a special young man um at the at the meetup. And I'll have Steve tell you about that.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, it was a pretty funny story. So we were there, my wife, my son, and I. And at some point, a little while into it, as it started to get busier and busier, my wife, she moved over more centrally. I was off to the right hand side by the table. Isaac was on his tablet or whatever, watching TV, keeping himself entertained and quiet and out of the way. So she, moves over. She's chatting with Mike's lovely wife. They're having a good time over there. And at some point, my son, he must have realized that everybody was kind of shifting over to the center. So he gets down from the little bar stool and, he's trying to drag it over. And I'm sitting there like, what's up, buddy? Like, what do you need? He's like, I want to go over there, pointing towards the middle of the space. It's like, okay, well, let me bring it over. And my wife, she's over there. She's like, oh, what's going on? Is he okay? And it's like, oh yeah, he just wants to come over and sit with you. And so I put the stool right next to her pretty much. And he goes, no, I want to sit over there.
Ah, nice.
And so I'm like, what here? And I'm like, I'm trying to understand because he's 3 years old, right? So I'm trying to understand. I'm moving it around like here. Like, is this the spot? Is this the right one? Turns out he wanted to sit next to Mike's daughter, who was like on the opposite end of the table from where my wife was sitting. And we both kind of just like, oh, okay, we see how it is now.
Nice. And that's when it happened.
That's what happened.
That's good stuff.
Did he
man.
say
Very good.
anything? No, he just kind of spun in his seat for a bit, laughing about it.
Very good. Hey, looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing you guys on Friday. And
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
yeah, we'll hopefully watch another good match. Speaking of a good match, we had 2 matches in the past stretch of days. One not good, one good. Mike, let's start with you. What do you want to talk about? Where do you want to start?
Look, I think we can get some real quick comments out of the way for West Ham. I was initially pretty okay with it, and as I got, because I went down to McKee's for that too, and I was pretty okay with it until about halfway home when I started to fucking stew. because, you know, West Ham scored two of the fucking jammiest goals that you'll ever see. And got pretty lucky, but it was the fact that we still couldn't get the ball into the box and break down that low block. Um, and and it just didn't seem like we could do anything right offensively. We weren't moving the ball around. There was a lot of space in the midfield, but there wasn't a lot of space, in and around the box. And no matter what we did, we couldn't get the ball in the box to anybody to have an effect on the game that way. Um, West Ham weren't the better team, and it pissed me off more and more. Um, but in the end, those type of games happen. Um, and we keep saying we see the vision and we see the greater purpose, and it's right out there and it's tangible. We can grab it, it's right there. And sometimes if you grab it and you don't grasp on hard, well enough, it gets away from you. And the game got away from us, and fucking there was a ping pong goal, and then there was the ball that just fell at Jared Bowen's feet and he didn't even know it was there for a second. Um, and then there was the goal that Vic gave away that really, I mean, it wasn't really Vic, but he all Vic had to do was come out of his box and play the ball, and it would have been a free kick versus a man in on goal pretty easily. But it's one way or another, we lose the
It is a
game.
blunder.
It's some shit that happens, every once in a while. So I'm not too worried about it.
The frustrating thing about that game for me, it's not even that there was a lack of opportunity. Like, we had plenty of chances. We skied some shots. We, sent them harmlessly wide. So it's not like we couldn't have put the game to bed. We should have done it, in the first 30 minutes. We should have been up 3-4-0, but we didn't. We got the one goal. And then after, the 30 or so minutes, we started to just, be patient and slow and try to be a little bit more methodical about it. And that's just not how you want to set up, right? And I think Ansh in his post-match for that one was spot on, right? They just lacked the conviction. But it's not so much the result, because Mike, I think you're spot on. We can see what we're trying to do. We can see what Ange is pushing out there from a tactics perspective. And it's not like he's doing anything, super wrong. We're doing the right stuff. It's way more interesting to watch than it was. So I can't really fault him from an entertainment perspective. But some of the substitutes were just baffling to me.
Yeah, they were odd.
Yeah, like, Sarr, obviously I get that's somebody you want on. We'll talk more about him when we get to the Newcastle one. But Skip, like, that just doesn't make sense to me. He's one of those guys who I just don't think the way this squad is set up to play suits his ability, right? If he was playing for like a more defensive minded, like Mourinho-esque type squad, I think he would absolutely be somebody who would be fighting for a space on the first team. Maybe like a mid to lower level Premier League team would be grateful to have somebody like him. But for the, kind of high pressing, progressive style of play that Ange is trying to push, Skip just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Waiting so long to put Valise on was also an odd one. And the reason for that, and again, we'll talk more about this when we get to Newcastle, because it was a thing that was caught and rectified by Ange in an interesting way. Sonny down the center, when you've got two very big physical center backs, he's always going to be at a disadvantage. Like, we know he's got an engine. We know he can run for 90 minutes. He'll run himself into the ground. He'll never tire, never give up, never surrender. But when it comes to like jostling and holding the ball up and trying to bring other people in, that's just not his wheelhouse.
You're not gonna win those battles with like guys like Zuma,
exactly.
and Suchek,
so if you needed somebody to battle, why not send the bigger, stronger kid out there? And maybe it's just that he is a kid, right? He's still getting used to things. He's not quite at the level Ange needs him. But that game to me was screaming for somebody in there. And I think even just sliding Decky centrally and having him play as that hold up person down the middle would have been much better. But he didn't do it. We made we got Valiz out a little bit too late for him to really do much of anything. So yeah, it was awful, but we did have the ability to bounce back, and that kind of brings us to
Perfect.
Newcastle.
A,
Right?
a quick
Yeah.
quick question on that game before we go on. Excuse me. I just had this realization, and forgive me if this is just short-sighted and stupid. I was really disappointed with Decky's performance against West Ham. He wasn't penetrating, he wasn't crossing, but I also didn't know his nose was broken. Do we know anything about the timing of when
It was
that
That was at
incident
the
towards
end.
the
happened?
game.
It was toward the end of the game.
Was it late? All right.
Yeah,
Well, Decky kind of sucked against West Ham. Like he
did.
was not. And there's a part of me is like, man, is he messing with Ange because he wants to play more centrally, and Ange has him back out on the right for this match? What'd you guys think about that? What'd you think about his
I thought
struggles?
that he was I didn't think he sucked, but I didn't think he was phenomenal. And it just goes to show that maybe I should keep my mouth shut about what I think about how or who our best players are. Um um I don't think he sucked. I think he, like Steve said, like Ange said, he kind of lacked the conviction to maybe finish every once in a while, to maybe put the ball in the box every once in a while, because you see him, he hesitates to pull the trigger sometimes
Mhm.
if he sees a guy approaching. Um, so I think that toward the end of the game, I think he was great toward the end of the game. I think he um when he did break his nose, it was that when he went charging into the box, right?
Yeah,
And
Piqueta
he, and
caught
he
him.
and he got caught, and it was close to being like close to penalty. And he got caught with an elbow in the face. That wasn't called. I think it was an incidental elbow.
All
It
right.
wasn't.
That
So
makes sense.
what I think we should really take from that game is what Ange said on Spurs TV after in the interview afterward, which was which was he actually cut off the interview. I can't remember the guy's name.
Yeah, because he was just kissing his butt, and
Yeah, well, and he said, and yeah, he basically said, like, the guy was like, we all see how well the team is playing, and it's great football. And he said, yeah, but it's also about results.
yeah, I'm here to win.
I'm here to win.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
it is about results. And the fans should be pissed off when you put out a performance like that, and it is the lack of it, and it was a lack. It's like the first time we ever heard Ange really. He wasn't digging out a specific player, but it was the first time we heard Ange say, yeah, these guys are not finishing the chances. They're not making the pass or the two passes or the nice touch to get them where they need to be. And it's kind of the first time we've seen Ange do that, and to say
Mhm.
it's not just on me. It's also on the players. I gave them the instruction. They have to go out and execute it. And that's perfectly fine because you're not throwing individual players under the bus. You're not taking those players and banishing them, to the other side of the training pitch the next day.
And
Which
he's not
can
deflecting. He's not
and yeah,
deflecting
No, no.
responsibility.
again, it's back to that honesty, and
Yeah.
that's what we love, and
And
that
so
brings
then,
us into
so then,
Newcastle.
3 short days later, right? So Steve, like a complete turn of events. What'd you think? What'd you see?
It was smart, right? So at first, when I saw the lineup, I expected Son was going to be up top, and you'd have Richie out left,
Yeah.
Johnson out right with Decky in the center. And I thought, just seeing that lineup, I thought, okay, yeah, that makes more sense, right? Having Decky central, you've got somebody who's a little bit stronger, whose hold up plays a little bit better. He can try to bring in some of the, wider guys. Kind of suits him. A little bit more. And I know based on that performance that he had against Newcastle that people are saying, oh, well, now he's going to have to compete with Madison for that central spot. And I kind of disagree with that because I think, yes, Decky on the right is sort of like a one-trick pony. But I think when Madison's in there, there's a lot more opportunity to swap and to move around and to be a little bit more creative. So I think they could play well. It's just the lack of Madison makes it very difficult for him on the
I
right,
think
right?
I honestly think that, yeah, when Madison's in there, what he does is he draws a lot of players toward him,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
it opens up things for Decky on that side. on that right side. I think Decky's more effective on that right side when he's got a midfielder who is going to, draw those defenders, and he can sneak into space, or he can sneak into the box and make runs into the box where,
Absolutely.
and it's
Absolutely.
the same, thing that kind of that Sonny was kind of able to do too. He was able to drop back and make clever runs into the box, um and kind of play 1-2 football, even with like maybe a certain left back who comes flying into the box constantly. Like, um, you'd never know the guy's a left back, but I completely agree with what Steve's saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. But you know what? The interesting thing is, it wasn't Son up top. Son was on the left. Richarlison was up top.
Mhm.
And you know what? It worked. It was, I don't know where this Richarlison has been. He had all of the effort, all of the, sort of head down workhorse mentality that we have seen from Richarlison, but with the added benefit of being able to put a ball on target. Uh, and score twice.
Well, you know why that happened, right? Because we fucking actually got the ball to him.
We did, but I gotta say,
I
speaking
mean,
about Richarlison,
he did sky that one, but
he did sky that one, yeah. But I really appreciated his candor after the match in an interview where he was talking about how like he was just getting in his own way. His heart was in the right place. He wanted to help the team. He wanted to help his club, his country, and he was putting off something that he needed to do in that surgery. And it was naive. It was wrong. He was screwing himself in the long run. So to hear him kind of take ownership of that and recognize that, like, I just needed to step back. I needed to focus, concentrate on getting better and doing what I need to do. Big props. And I'm really hoping that this leads to a redemption arc for him, because if he can do a lot of the good stuff that he did against Newcastle consistently, I think we'll be in a great spot, because he is somebody who, during his time at Everton, could be that sort of sneaky box player who could latch out of those balls, who could, pop up at the most opportune times. And if
it's
he's
good in the
not,
air.
yeah, if he's not holding himself back, if he's not hesitating, if he's not, second guessing himself because he's in pain, maybe it helps. Maybe we see old Richarlison and we actually get our money's worth for him. But I'm really rooting for him. I do think as a person, he's an outstanding individual. He does a lot of great work in his community back home in Brazil. And I would love to see him succeed. I really hope this is a turning point for him.
But we do need to see more, right? I mean,
We
that's
definitely need to see more.
in order to say that this wasn't a one-off.
Right. Like, congratulations. Great job. You did phenomenal. Do it
Now,
consistently.
now fucking do it again.
Yeah. And he's got, we've got Nottingham Forest coming up in a couple of days. Now's the time to do it,
Yeah, make
Um,
me choose you for my daily fantasy against the fuckwits.
but there's another change. There's another change that Ange made to the starting lineup that paid dividends for me. And that is Sarr in the midfield. I've been saying it for so long. That guy is such an underrated player in Spurs under Ange right now. He's not the goal scoring midfielder. He's not the creative midfielder picking out these through balls, these unlocking the defense passes. But this dude is an engine. He is constantly cutting off passing lanes, hounding attackers, getting his body in the way, breaking things up, and most importantly, allowing the other midfielders that we have to operate the way they want to play. It's why Basuma looked much better
Yeah,
against
I
Newcastle.
was gonna say he unlocked Basuma. Um, the Basuma that we saw in the beginning of the season.
And he's just a kid too.
I wasn't giving a lot of credit to Sarr. I honestly felt that Sarr wasn't maybe necessarily meant for this league. Given his size, I know he's put on weight. Given his size and his gait. Um, but this match, dude, the guy was fucking. He was everywhere, right? everywhere all the time. He covers so much ground really quickly. And I think the only guy that we have that's kind of a like for like on the team who might be a better pick is currently injured. And that's Bentancur.
Bentancur.
Yeah,
Yep.
and but that's great. That's a great problem to have, right? It's
It's
competition for each
fantastic.
other, and it's guys who are going to be able to spell each other when we let's eventually get into Europe next year. We're gonna need something like that. And what really turned it around for me when I thought he was too weak to play was when he and Joel Linton came into a challenge together, and Joel Linton fucking crumbled. He went right to the ground. It's like, wow, well, what happened there? Who is that? That was Sar.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened in my head. I might have said it out loud, but like he crumbled Joel Linton, and that dude is not a small dude.
No.
No, he's a giant douchebag, but he's not a small dude.
He's another guy that punishes Spurs all the time. Like I feel
No.
like he'll score one goal a season, and
Well,
it's always against
luckily
us.
Richie was there to punish him and take the
Yeah.
ball from him.
For me, I think one of the brightest moments of that game for Sar, and something that I think people ought to look at as a reason why you need a player like him on the team, is when Newcastle, they had a break down the left hand side. Poro was caught up field because that's where he's supposed to be when we're attacking. And Sar like books it down that left hand side, catches up to the guy, and just gracefully picks the ball from him,
Yeah.
turns it, and then is able to drive us forward again. And the guy's like left on his ass, like, what just happened? He didn't go through him. He wasn't overly aggressive. It wasn't physical. It was just this tiny little, let me poke that out. Let me take that. This is mine now. And it was such a beautiful play, right? Like he did the defensive work that he needed to do to cover for Pedro Porro. He got the ball back and he was able to transition it pretty quickly too. He wasn't holding on to it. He wasn't, okay, let me send it back to Romero now, who can send it to Vic. No, it was, I've got it. I've turned. I know that other guy has fallen down. I've got a minute to just collect myself, see what's ahead of me, and make the play that I need to make.
I think the point that you saw that um he was really having an effect in the game was when he got pulled.
Yes.
The when he got pulled for Hoiberg, I think Basuma kind of shut down, and the game changed a bit, and maybe it's because we kind of sat back a little bit, but for one reason or another, like the game changed, and I think that's a credit to Sar, and it's a credit to Ange who gave him the opportunity from day one to be out there, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
can we talk about Pedro Porro?
I would
Because
love to talk
I'm
about Pedro
pretty sure
Porro.
I'm pretty sure all of us said that he probably wasn't going to play much this year. I'm pretty sure we said that at the
He
beginning of the
can't
season or
play
in the
right
pre,
back.
right? Yeah, yeah. So, um, but also I think I had said a number of times, if there's anybody who can do it, it would have been him, because he's young, he's able to be taught, he's able to be changed, he's able to be taught how to play defense. The guy has been a trooper defensively. He's been amazing in transition. He's been amazing with his ability to cross the ball, his ability to take a free kick when needed. I mean, the guy, he exudes confidence, he exudes joy when he's playing. He knows when he's got one over on you. And he had about fucking 6 to 8 nutmegs in that game that made people look stupid. Now, let's just get this out of the way right now. I get Newcastle is injured. I get that they're playing a lot of
So are
fucking
we.
games midweek. Um, I get that. I get that. They're just fucking tired. But guess what? We were tired too last year. We were playing European football last year. We had a lot of competitions we were in. It's and I knew, and I've told, we were supposed to have my friend Natalie on, who's a Newcastle supporter, today, and I told her at the beginning of the season, I just don't think that team has what it takes to be able to play, sometimes 3 times a week. I just don't think they have what it takes. Not yet. I love Eddie Howe. as a manager. I like the team mostly. I think Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton are pieces of shit. But
Alan
other
Wilson
than that,
too.
I like the
Almiron.
team. I don't mind Almiron. I don't mind
We know
Almiron. I
you
just
love
think
Almiron.
I think he's a fantastic player.
You
He's
used
just
to
a
love you used to
crybaby.
love John Joe Shelby too.
No, I did not love Banjo
He
Shelby.
looks like a toe.
Uh, so any like so
Anywho,
that's like I just don't think that team had the ability to be able to survive. And I just don't see them making Europe again this year. It it's not going to get any easier for them. In fact, I think it gets a lot harder for them.
There's two more players. First is the counterpart for Pedro Porro. Just a shout out to Destiny for for that well taken goal. But also, I mean, a lot of what you said about Pedro Porro, you can apply the same logic to
good.
Dougie over there.
And Dusty
Another
just
wing back.
signed a new deal today, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did not see that. What happened? Wait,
Signed till
what?
2029. Does that sound right,
Yeah.
Steve?
Destiny signed a new deal, apparently.
Yeah.
With Tottenham Hotspur?
Yep.
No, with Liverpool. Yeah, with Tottenham
Well,
Hotspur.
I'm just wondering. I'm just making sure I'm not like in a fucking
Yeah.
fever dream.
Scored a
No,
goal
yeah.
and they gave him the deal. That's how it worked.
But
And he
it's the same
signed it.
thing, right? You can take the exact same logic. Somebody, oh, he's a wing back. They got him for Conte's system. He's never going to be able to play left back. And here he is fucking cooking. Absolutely love it.
Don't you think maybe Jed Spence would be able to do something like that too, though?
You'd think so, but
I think so. I Destiny's more mature though, even though I think Jed's older, right? Is Jed a little bit older? But
He might be a year or two older, I think.
Destiny's a more mature player. You know what I mean? He's
the last
he's a
person,
man. He's a grown man.
the last player that I think deserves a shout out, and yeah, maybe Son also deserves one, but we talk about Son all the time. Another unsung hero who has been with the club for 10 years, who never says anything bad, who always, puts his best foot forward. He's not the most world-class player we've ever had. He's not the most creative. He's not putting in the goals. Ben freaking Davies. Big Daddy
that guy.
Davies.
Big Daddy
That
Davies.
guy.
I was like, this better not be an Eric Dyer appreciation.
No,
I know.
I
I
don't
was thinking
appreciate
10
it.
years. Like who could that be? It's steady.
Hugo
No.
Lloris? No, he's not doing
Big
anything.
Daddy
Can't be him.
Davies. This guy, we've said it a number of times. He's Mr. Reliable, Mr. 7 out of 10. You're never going to get a world-class performance, but he's also just going to be a sort of pillar, somebody who is central, who does all the right things, even if it's not like the most fantastic. He's not going to beat anybody for pace. He's not going to play these incredible through balls all the way across field, but he slots in and he does his job. And he, against Newcastle in particular, he did it incredibly well. I mean, that deft touch to take the ball away from Isak early on was just unreal. But he never gets the appreciation that some of these other guys do, because he's just consistently a 7 out of 10. He's good.
He's made some mistakes this year, sure. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like I think he had one of the big, for lack of a better term, boners in the Wolves match, right? But you're right. He's a 7 out of 10 generally. Like we thought, no way this guy's going to be able to play, wing back in Conte's system. He came out and he deputized and did it. No way he's going to be able to play, right back or left back, and he came out and he's done that. He's come in and he's played center back. Like this guy could probably play defensive midfield if he had to. He's never going to have the flash. He's never going to have he's never going to get all the plaudits. He's probably never going to get a man of the match, but he was an 8 out of 10 for me. I think this match, I think he was brilliant. I think,
and you know what? He doesn't complain either.
Being able to kick that ball, being able to slide in, and dude, I saw him trucking, man, and he was trucking as hard as he could, dude. He was like a steam engine, and he slid across the box, and I don't know, he wasn't obviously trying to get the ball off of Isak, but he did. There were a lot of guys on the Newcastle team that I really held in high regard that I think were shit. in this game.
He was trucking, huh?
Oh, dude, he
Keep
was
on trucking.
trucking.
Did he have his chips cashed in?
Okay.
You know, before we go completely off the rails,
never do you get Mike silent. That was I'm really excited about what just happened there. Like you were temporarily.
It's like one of the
speechless.
Grateful Dead songs. I'm like, all right.
So there's one thing that we haven't said about the match, and I'm kind of surprised because I thought Mike for sure was going to call me out on it, especially when he brought up Pedro Porro when he had that chipped shot that was just on top of the net, wasn't sneaking in. And what did I do in the middle of McKee's? I fucking dropped to my knees and threw my hands
fell onto
on the
his
back of
knees.
my head.
He fell onto his knees.
You did the aghast football player pose,
Yeah,
basically. Nice.
Just right there. Just
very nice.
I was like, he's bringing up Pedro Porro so he can rub that in my face. Well, you know what? I'm rubbing it in my own face.
There you go.
Because that's Steve's best at self-deprecation.
Speaking of rubbing things in your face, Steve, there's a question I want to hear you ask.
Are you going to ask me about the chocolate Santa that I have under this foil?
No, I don't. Keep the foil on, please.
The question is,
the ridge is there so that the hat, has that's the right shape.
Oh God, I can't even ask this. Dave, you're gonna have to ask this question.
Mike. Hey, Mike, what you drinking?
Guys, today I have something very special.
You do. It's from an old family recipe.
For those of you who are listening and you haven't the faintest idea what in God's green earth we're talking about, there was an SNL skit this past weekend with Adam Driver where he
it's very long,
by the way. Great host. He was fantastic.
Absolutely. He plays
both
this
times he's been on, yeah.
He plays this chocolatier in a skit on like this like QVC, TV sales channel type.
What did he call himself? The Willy Wonka of Central Indiana?
Willy Wonka of Central Iowa. But he's got this candy Santa that he brings, and well, let's just say when he unwraps the foil, it is quite phallic. And,
it looks like a chocolate dick. I'm just gonna say it. Anyway,
so check that out if it's on YouTube. You definitely want to give that a view.
Who asked the fucking question?
I asked the question, Mike.
Thank you.
Would you like me to ask it again? Hey, Mike, what you drinking?
Dave, I love it when you ask the question.
I know you
so
do.
today for you guys, I got something kind of special. I've been looking at these in the cooler at the Georgia market for a couple
weeks. It's not phallic, is it?
No. You stop trying to derail this.
I will never
every
stop.
week.
I think we're still going with thick and fast for the episode name, boys. Just telling you that.
Just like the ABV.
So Steve might have to make an apology next week.
I will never apologize. I want to apologize.
I've got these beers. I've got these beers.
Beers, plural.
Two, yes, today. I've been looking at these beers in the cooler at the beverage warehouse. Now I just learned why there were two different breweries here. There are actually like 10 different breweries that are involved in this. Last year, Vermont experienced, another 1 in 100 year storm, which caused a lot of flooding.
That was just 6 months ago.
Right, yeah. So the brewers in Vermont have collaborated to brew these Vermont strong beers in their own breweries. So I guess the deal is, and the money from the proceeds goes to the victims, the flood victims, because as I've also just learned, these people ain't getting shit from FEMA. People have lost their entire homes, entire businesses, that kind of stuff, and FEMA's not helping out at all. So what the brewers have done is done this series, and there's about 10 different breweries involved. I have 2 of them here tonight. And the deal is that Lawson's Finest Liquids, we've done their beers on this before, have created a recipe that brewers are allowed to use or not use. They can create their own. But within these recipes, the beers are all going to be different from each brewer because they use their own yeast. So breweries use their own yeast typically. It gives the beer taste. It gives it smell. It gives it body. Um, so these two beers are, I'm assuming, different recipes. Because you don't have to use the recipe, but they do use the same label. One
That's
is, and
strong.
they're pale ales. They're pale ales.
Surprise, surprise.
Um, they're not India pale ales. One comes from Burlington Beer Company. And one comes from Goodwater Brewing. One of my old favorites, one of my ex favorites. Um, so I'm gonna try these out, both of them, and I'll give you a rating on each one of them,
Okay.
and we'll see what happens.
So what's up first?
I think we're gonna go with Burlington beer first. And this is gonna be a specific challenge for you and Steve. So pale ales are typically a little lighter in body, and lighter in taste, than an India pale ale.
So wait, let me get some clarity here. Are you picking the best one and we rate that, or are we rating both?
I want a rating for both.
Okay.
I'm gonna rate both of them, give them each a song.
Okay.
And you know what?
You should get a song.
get
Wow.
myself set up.
Mike just doubled the Hey Mike.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Scale
so
back? No.
I've got these
bring
both
it.
poured. I've got these both poured. I have the cans separated so I know which
I want a side by side hold up comparison. I want to see color.
Okay, you're gonna have to take a picture.
No, I just
Take
want to
a
look at it.
picture.
Okay, so
There is a difference in color.
There's a
Right.
difference, yeah.
so it looks like one of them didn't use the actual recipe that came from Lawson's.
Which one is which?
This is Goodwater. And we know
I
Goodwater
figured.
doesn't typically use, they usually use they usually brighten their beers. This is from Burlington Beer, which we know makes hazy fruit bomb beers, right? So I'm going to start with Burlington Beer, I said.
Do you have a little thing of water to cleanse your palate between them?
I have Miller Lite, sure.
Oh, Mike. What would I do without you?
Okay, so Burlington Beer. This is spicy. It's a little bit spicy.
That's a spicy
It's
meatball.
made with Simcoe Nelson Sauvin hops, which are generally used in like French style beers. It's not as fruity as I thought it would be. It smells really fruity. It smells like grapefruit juice, but it is a light beer. It is definitely a pale ale, and it's definitely no doubter Burlington Beer Company beer.
Interesting.
No
All
doubter.
right, yeah. All right.
I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
You enjoy
I can't wait to get into more of that.
Doesn't love it, but he enjoys it.
Now he's cleansing his palate with the Miller Lite.
I didn't say. Okay, whatever.
Have I thrown you off again?
I got
Oh no, the Goodwater smells.
Got my number on the first one there for you.
The Goodwater smells like it smells like nothing.
Are you inappropriately biased against Goodwater? Like, is this bound to be like under?
Should we have done this as a
No, I
blind taste test?
still think that their Kolsch is one of the best made in this state.
All right.
It's one of the best Kolsch's I've ever had.
Okay.
I love the Stange. Yeah,
You
but
just
it doesn't
just
have
said
that same.
sponge.
It doesn't have that same nose, that same smell.
I don't know how I feel about a beer that doesn't have a smell to it.
True. I like to smell it. The nonverbals are not promising. All right.
No.
Just see its stock tanking in real time.
I got a quick number for you there, Steve.
Where's Jim Kramer?
So that beer is not great.
Did you say not great or not good?
It's not good.
Okay.
Well, he said it's not great, but he also just said it's not good.
It tastes like a number of home brews that I've made.
Mm-hmm.
Try to make pale ales, and I can't do an India pale ale for some reason. I guess they're really easy to make, but I can't do them. It's got I don't know if anybody remembers, I've always said like a beer that isn't brewed properly, especially a pale ale, gets like a grassy taste. Like, the smell of fresh cut grass. Imagine how that might taste. Um, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It and it has like a weird characteristic to it that I can't I don't like it at all.
All right.
Ah,
Well,
that's the right
while you're on
number.
this one, why don't you go ahead and rate this one?
I gotta drop it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I'm with you, Steve.
the
I made
Goodwater,
that similar move. Yeah,
Yeah.
give us a good water rating, then go back, take another sip of the Burlington just to recalibrate.
2.1.
Ooh,
Ooh.
It's not good,
Steven.
man.
Steven was
It's not
close at
good.
2.2. All right. We're
I
dialed in,
haven't
Steve. I like it.
Yeah,
I haven't
yeah.
been there in a while, and I wanted it to be good, but
All right. Let's go back to Burlington. Take another sip.
I'm sticking with my
oh, it's
Burlington
making me
number.
burp a lot. It's like very gassy. I'm very gassy.
Just like me after Taco Bell.
Hey, Mike, maybe in the future we won't review two beers at once. How about that for an idea?
No,
We'll do three next
I wanted
time.
to do this because it was special. I have something really special for next week.
Next week, Mike does a flight.
I did a
The entire podcast
14.6%
is
last week, and then I apologize for it. Now I'm doing 2.
entire pod next week is Mike reviewing a flight of beer.
Um,
Guess
so
which one's the maple syrup?
Fine.
this one's a really good. Like I said, it's very typically Burlington beer. You can taste it. It's like that yeast quality. It's every single one of their beers has that same type of. Uh, it's like a nice. I'm not gonna say it. I was gonna say it, but I'm not gonna say it. Because
Do it.
Dave's gonna make fun of me for the rest of my life for it. So it's just
Please say it.
it's
Please,
just got a
please.
great quality to it that makes every beer that they make almost perfect. Um, this isn't a perfect beer, but it's gonna be up there for me. It's not gonna be 4.8,
I would hope not.
4.6, but I'm gonna go 3.9. So close.
So very close. Yeah, so very close. It's interesting, Mike. I feel like your nonverbals and your words, your verbals and nonverbals, were not that high to start. And I feel like you went to the good water and that badness kind of pushed you a little higher on the Burlington. That's just my
That's
gut
a
read.
distinct possibility. I didn't have that in the back of my mind. I wasn't thinking that, but that's a possibility.
Yeah, or Steve and I said 3.5 and Steve said 3.7. So that was our initial sense, right? And we're pretty close nowadays.
No, that's
But
pretty close.
yeah,
I think that's pretty good.
you crept up a touch. I think the bad beer pushed
You
you
know, it's
higher.
the
All right.
interesting thing for me about these ratings is both of them Mike picked an odd decimal.
Yes. Which is why both of
Oh,
us, or yeah,
why
we
do
I
both,
want
I guess I
yeah.
guess I just never think that. But like,
Oh, we're you see, Dave and I we're thinking about every potential variable so that we
Oh,
can get nailed
absolutely.
in. Is this going to
Yeah.
be a week where he's going to go odds or evens,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
It's all there.
is his high rating, is that like O face level, or are we just below that? Are we going to break the 4 threshold?
I count in my head how long you take the first sip, and that gives me a sense on the initial score.
We look at
Just
the
the length of
percentage
sip.
of
Yeah.
volume consumed in that initial drink.
This is not art, bro. This is science, man. Let me tell you,
I've got
this is
calculus on the side here to try to determine my
we've been
score.
doing this bit for fucking 3 years now,
we have.
and you've got it down for it to a science.
Well,
We're
yeah, and I think
trying.
we may be the only ones who like it anymore, but hey,
My
we still like it. It's our
my
podcast.
stack of 4-pack carriers is it's my multiple stacks.
All right, how
I'm
about
gonna
some
go.
songs on these bad boys? How about a good water song? You got a good water song for us?
This is where
Yeah,
he brings out the
there.
Billy Joel.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
get no. I'm not bringing out Billy Joel. I'm not bringing that guy out. He doesn't even get to come on stage. I'm going Roxy music on this trash.
I might know what that is, but I wish I could say I actually know what that is.
Yeah, it's just that this beer's trash.
Okay, got it. How
The
about
the girl in the song is trash. Let's just put it that way.
sweet? How about Burlington?
Um, Burlington beer keeps getting better, man. I'm going Roxy Music stronger through the years.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
I am a big fan of the BBCO myself. I think it's a good spot.
Yeah, make sure you put the O on there.
Otherwise, we're in chocolate Santa land all over again.
Otherwise, it's gonna be. Otherwise, it's gonna get thick and fast in here.
That is a television network from England. So like, don't offend our listeners overseas. Just want to throw that out to you.
Hey, they chose it, not me.
Fair. Fair. All right. Hey, this has been Hey Mike, what you drinking? Reviewing 2 beers. Mike, well done. Always appreciate it. And boys, let's look ahead. We're creeping toward wrap up time. So let's do kind of a look ahead, closing thoughts sort of combo if that works for you guys. Steve, why don't you guys go on? What are you thinking about?
I think this next run of fishers that we have is the perfect opportunity.
Fishers? We got a run of fishers?
Fishers.
You might want to go to the hospital for that, Steve. Fishers.
No, that's
Fishers.
Just remind you of my little gnomes. No, this next round of fixtures, it's a perfect opportunity to test whether or not we can hit that consistency with the conviction levels that Ange was talking about. It's easy for us to look at this Newcastle match as a, prime example of how Ange ball works when everything goes right. But you have to remember that we're on a run of 5 in a row where we have not gotten the result that our performance is warranted. And Nottingham is playing at a level that is not quite league beating, but they're not going to roll over for us either. They're going to make it difficult. It's going to be a hard game. We're actually going to have to put some effort in. They're one of those mid-table teams that on their day they can show up and they can compete. So there's no doubt in my mind that Ange is looking at that game and he's telling these players, like, do it again. Like, I want to see you put the exact same performance in a second time. I want to see you get multiple goals. I want to see you put this game to bed, reward the dominance that I'm sure we're going to get. Because not for nothing, even though the results haven't been with us for the last several games, the performances have warranted more than we've gotten on the field. So Ange is going to be very mindful of that. He's going to want the team to be ruthless, to go for the throat if they need to, and to really make it a statement. I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. I think it's a game that we win. The big question for me going into that is whether or not Richarlison is going to find that consistency. Does he score again? I'm okay if he doesn't score, as long as he contributes in a positive way to our attack. If he's opening up channels for, Son, for Johnson, for Hill or Decky or whoever else is out there, as long as he's doing what he's got to do and he's getting into dangerous places, and he's not fluffing the most basic of finishes, I'll be content. But I do think it's a game that we win. I just don't think it's going to be an easy win. I think it's going to be one that they're going to have to work for and prove it, not just to themselves, but to everybody in the league, that the Newcastle game wasn't a fluke.
I like it. Good analysis. Mike, what are you thinking about as you look ahead?
All right. So Steve called Nottingham Forest a mid-table team. They're not a mid-table team. They're 16th. They're sitting 16th right now. Just above. They should be sitting 17th because they're just above 10-point deducted Everton right now, who would be sitting currently in 10th, 1 point behind West Ham.
Actually, how do you define mid-table, Mike?
Mid-table?
Yeah.
8 through 12, 8 through 14.
That's a tight window.
Well,
pretty
dude,
hard to be a mid-table team.
How many teams are in the league?
20.
So
in the middle of the table,
I mean,
six through 15.
I see what he's saying, and I get it. It's not like they're lighting the world aflame or anything.
You have the top 6 teams, the next 6 teams, and the next 6 teams, and then you have fucking Sheffield United and Burnley.
But you gotta, I'm just thinking, like, this is a team
who don't
This
belong in
is
the
a
league.
team that they beat Aston Villa, which is a very difficult team, right? They've looked, even in some of these games that they've lost recently, they've looked good for stretches, right? So again, it comes down to the conviction that Spurs has. If we get an early goal and we try to sit back and defend that early goal and just, we take our foot off the gas, this is a team that can snatch a goal, right? It's not like they're bereft
No,
of
yeah, I mean
attacking talent.
they have guys like Chris Wood, like they have a cast-offs from other clubs. They have Alanga, who was you know, famously played for the other fucking red team with the white sleeves. They got Gibbs White. They're going to be looking forward to seeing their
Serge
old
Aurier,
compatriot. They have Serge Aurier was a throwaway. Willie Bawley. Who else is on that fucking team?
Divock Origi,
Origi's on that team too. Jesus Christ.
Taiwo Awoniyi,
Awani. Oh, so Awani's good. He's a good player. He can score.
Callum
Um,
Hudson-Odoi is on this team apparently.
Hudson Odoi is on this team. Jesus.
Oh wow.
So it's a hodgepodge team of guys who are put together with masking tape and glue. Um, and I honestly don't think they're going to put up much of a fight. Um, they have a manager who's on the edge of being booted. Even though I think they just re-signed him, did they not?
Who knows?
Was it last season they just re-signed him to like a long contract? So they're a nice team, um, but they're not going to be able to compete with a team that's super high on confidence. That's super that is firing on all cylinders right now. We're only missing three of our best players right now. If Dave wants to count Man or Solomon in there. Um,
Madison Bentancur,
I forget about
Mickey Van de
Bentancur. I'm
Ven,
sorry. Van de Ven. I was thinking of Van de Ven and Madison, like
Ivan Perisic.
players who were there in the beginning of the season. Ivan Perisic, I think would have been super successful in this club this year.
Yeah.
Um,
He was putting some good crosses in early.
yeah,
Mike,
he
I think
was.
you're spot on, right? I
So
do
like
think it's a game that we lost.
I just think that it's a game that we walk off easy.
If it's the Newcastle Spurs that show up and not the West Ham Spurs.
I'm not worried
what it
about
comes
West
down
Ham
to.
Spurs. I'm not worried about Aston Villa Spurs. I'm worried about Wolves Spurs. And I don't think that happens again because believe it or not, Ange does change his tactics and change his system.
Absolutely he does. Yeah, no
but
doubt.
but guys like fucking Gary Neville and the pundits all tell us that Ange is naive and that he refuses to change and this is
I
the
got a
way we're gonna
secret for
play
you.
come hell or high water
Gary Neville is
to
a
the
twat.
detriment of the team.
Yeah,
Gary Neville is a twat and he's a
let
piece
him
of
keep
shit.
talking. Let him keep talking.
No, because that's all
they'll
they
be
do
proven
because
wrong.
that's what
How
they're
did
paid
his
to do.
managerial stints go?
Gary Neville,
Jamie Carragher came around, but I mean, he's maybe got reason
well,
to.
Jamie Carragher is a secret Spurs fan, so
You're right.
Not for nothing. Of all those pundits,
he hates Neville. I guarantee he does.
Yeah, he does.
I do think that Jamie
He hates Micah
Carragher
Richards,
tends
too.
to have the better takes.
Yeah.
Carragher?
Yeah.
And
Like
he's
not
got
just between him and Neville, but for most of the pundits, he's the one that, even though he clearly has a bias in there, and he's not afraid to, harp on the pro Liverpool train as much as he can.
Yeah.
When it comes to talking about Ange and his tactics and a lot of that stuff, he does more often than not, I would say, come across as a bit smarter than most of the other analysts. He's not 100% always go to listen, but
you know what I really want? I just want of all those Sky Sports guys, I want Keane to come in and just slide tackle Neville really hard.
That would be good.
Really hard.
Jamie, the other Jamie Redknapp, he came around. Well, he didn't come around, but he, he's pro Spurs. Hey, Mike, give me a closing thought.
So, closing thoughts. It is the crazy season, right? we thought we were gonna get points in place in some places and and drop points in other places. Turns out that we got points out of Newcastle, we got a point out of Man City, and we dropped points in places where we thought we were gonna take points. West Ham and Aston Villa. Where had we played our cards right and had we played the game right, probably would have. It's all part of what goes into professional soccer, what goes into being a supporter of a professional team, any professional team, whether you're a fan of the fucking Las Vegas Raiders or whether you're a fan of Manchester City, or whether you're a fan of Eintracht Frankfurt, any of those teams. Like, what comes with it are ups and downs and ups and downs. Um, what really matters in that is the vision for the future. Do you see the vision for the future? Um, the vision for the future is attainable. It's out there for Spurs. Um, I think that we've been given a clear idea of what we're going to be seeing going forward, and I really, really, I can't say it. I can't say it enough. I do say it every week, but I'm very excited. I'm very excited about the Spurs team. I went home like on some sort of weird cloud the other day, some sort of weird cloud. I was super, super happy. I was super happy going home, leaving McKee's and knowing that I had to go back to work, in knowing that I was going to be away from my family, that night. Like, I had this weird sense of like, okay, shit, everything's going to be okay. We've kind of mostly weathered the storm. We have to remember that we have three players that are going to be coming back in January, February, and March.
And three
Three
that are
players,
leaving.
three players that are big, big time players, but we have players that are leaving. So we have the two players we're losing to the African Cup of Nations, and we have a player that we're losing to the Asia Cup.
Thanks, Jurgen.
Yeah, Jurgen. But the thing is, we now have players that we know can show up and do a service, right? They may not be the best players for the future, but we know that they're there, and that they're going to be able to get us through this rough patch. Like, it sucked not winning in five matches, right? Or four matches, whatever it was. But we knew that it could happen, and we're going to be missing our talisman. I don't necessarily think that's a terrible thing if Richie continues to do what we saw him do the other day. And I think green lights. So for the rest of the stretch in December, and once we get into February, or January, we get through January and into February. Then we start talking about where we're gonna land in Europe, whether it's gonna be on the farmlands, or whether it's gonna be in the golden cities of Europe.
Fair enough. Good closing thoughts, Mike. Well done. Steve, how about
Thanks,
you?
buddy.
Closing thoughts?
Because I wasn't trashed this time.
Right.
I mean, I kind of shared my closing thoughts about how I feel about Forest. I do, just to sum it up again, if Newcastle Spurs show up, we blow them out of the water, no question about it.
West Ham Spurs, we get smoked.
It's not so much that we get smoked, it's that it becomes more difficult because they are a team that is capable of getting a goal. And I don't know. We'll just have to see. But I have to echo Mike. I do feel really good about how the team is progressing. I like what I'm seeing from Ange. I like the system that he's got set up. I do, of course, think that he still needs another 2 or 3 windows to, not just get a prime set of first team players in the door, but also to improve our squad depth. because as we've discussed many times so far, it's quite clear where the drop off is when we have to make substitutions during a game. The Skippies, the Hoibergs coming in and slowing things down is really a little bit frustrating to see, especially when we've been so dominant for most of the game. But yeah, I'm loving Ange Ball. I think Ange is a fantastic manager. He's absolutely who we need, and we just got to keep supporting him through thick and thin.
Thick and thin, thick and fast. Way to
Thick
wrap
and
that up there,
fast.
buddy. Hey, this has been Wicked Spursy, boys. Well done. Appreciate you.
Dave, we didn't
Love
hear
it.
any final thoughts from you. Like you want to end this pod so fast,
No, I'm trying to be
Thick and fast, even.
thick and fast.
trying to be respectable to our listeners. We are on 69 minutes right now. No
Nice.
69,
stupid,
bro.
childish pun intended, but I know there's a sweet spot somewhere between 65 and 68 that we like to try to hit. So, just trying to manage, trying to do my thing. But you want to hear from Dave? All right. I'm gonna give you some stuff. Thing number one, Mike, no offense to you. The word talisman, when applied to soccer and football, drives me crazy. Annoying term. Hate that word, but you can keep using it. But I don't like it when they apply
Here's the
that
thing,
to
Dave.
a player.
Here's the thing, Dave. I don't give a fuck
keep,
what you
keep
think.
going.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's all good. But no, it's just something that's always bugged me.
Don't yuck my yum.
When they would call Harry Kane the talisman, shut up. What is he? Your token special person? Well,
Yes,
have some other special people. That's the way.
we've
That's
got a
the way
lot of special people.
Perfect. That's the way I feel about that. Steve, I want to run counter to something you had said. I am worried about West Ham Spurs showing up, and I'm kind of with Mike on that. West Ham Spurs were last year's Spurs. West Ham Spurs were pitiful. They were not convicted. They were not focused. They were not motivated, and that team is scary. And that's the team that just gives things away to clubs of lesser quality, which Forest would be. So that concerns me a great deal. I don't ever want to see West Ham Spurs again, or 22-23 Spurs again. Finally, closing thought from me. Very much looking forward to seeing you guys on Friday, picking up my son from college. He's going to be home along with his brother for 3-4 weeks. Be nice to have the boys back home for the holidays, but get to kick things off a couple hours with you guys at McKee's, enjoying food, drink, and good company. So that's what I got. How you like it?
That's
Sounds
better.
good.
All right, I'm here for you, man. I'm here. I heard Steve's little man in the background. It's bedtime, just trying to take care of things. Steve, as we wrap things up, what would you say is just a really final comment to everyone?
Quiz.
And
Don't be an asshole.
thank you very much. And Michael, how about you? If you were to give some advice to people, what would you say to them?
Yeah, this is winter. The weather's turning shitty. I want you to go out there, and when you're driving and when you're on the road, pay attention. Try to slow and be safe.
And how do you feel about Spurs football right about now?
God,